Warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, my name is Rahmadara as a master ceremony today, and on behalf of the Water Resource Engineering Department, Universitas Brawijaya, I would like to welcome all the participants to the competitive fund Campus Merdeka program. The theme is Building with Nature. I would like to extend a very warm welcome to the honorable distinguished guest, Mr. Amrit Kado, also Prof. Boke from the Deltares, and also the Honorable Vice Dean of the Engineering Faculty, Universitas Brawijaya, Mr. Ishardita PhD, the Honorable Head of the Water Resource Engineering, Ibu Dr. Usi Andawayanti, and also the Honorable all the participants who attend this event today. Ladies and gentlemen, now we are going to listen the opening speech delivered by the Dean of the Engineering Faculty. However, due to the another urgent meeting at the same time, therefore the speech will be given by our Vice Dean for the Academic Affair. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ishardita, PhD. Time is yours. Is welcome.
Okay, thank you, Bu Rahma. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honorable Mr. Amrit Kedo of Deltares, Netherlands, the Honorable Dr. Usi Andawayanti, Head of Water Resources Engineering Department, Universitas Brawijaya, and all participants at this international workshop. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon to you, fellows in Indonesia, and good morning to our fellows in Netherlands, and very early morning to Amrit Kedo in Mexico. It is my pleasure to meet you, Mr. Amrit Kedo and team, and thank you for being with us today. On behalf of the Dean and Universitas Brawijaya, I would like to welcome all participants to the International Workshop on Building with Nature, hosted by Water Resources Engineering Department, Universitas Brawijaya, in collaboration with Deltares, Netherlands. It is truly an honor and a privilege for us to host this program. This international workshop will be delivered by experts from Deltares, and in this special occasion, we will have an opportunity to learn from experts in the field of building with nature. Ladies and gentlemen, building with nature is a comprehensive engineering approach that seeks to enhance the use of natural ecological processes to achieve efficient and sustainable hydraulic infrastructural designs. It strives for flexible integration of land in water and water in land, using interactions and materials present in nature. The method is now being used extensively in the Netherlands to manage its extensive coastal and river works, while the first large-scale pilot project in Indonesia is in Demak, Central Java. I hope that through this international workshop program, we will get in-depth knowledge on how to implement the building with nature concept to the real-world problems and gain a better understanding of current issues in research and practice related to nature-based solutions. Finally, I would like to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation to the Deltares expert team for building with nature, and also Dr. Usi Andawayanti for your valuable input to this program. I would also like to extend a special thanks for the committee for their support to organize this program successfully. I hope this program will serve to broaden our perspective on the role of building with nature. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Mr. Ishardita PhD, for welcoming speech. Ladies and gentlemen, according to our schedule, we are going to continue the presentation and discussion from the distinguished guests and all the participants that will be guided by our moderator today, Mr. Bambang Winarta, PhD. The floor is yours.
Okay, thanks, Brahma. But before we start presentation and also discussions in the second meeting of our workshop, perhaps is there any is there any opinion? From Amrit to our faculty,
Um,
do you want to say something to Dean of Faculty Engineerings?
I just want to say thank you also for inviting me. You keep on saying I'm honored, the honored Amrit. I must say I am very honored to participate in these workshops and to see such a large group of participants eager to learn about building with nature. And also like to thank you, Bapa, for organizing these events. It's very, very interesting and very cool to see how the training that we gave a couple of years ago has now had a spin-off, and you are now giving trainings yourself, so that's very happy. And finally, I really just wanted to say that I really enjoy the setup of this current workshop. I'm really eager to see. How do I say it? I've never seen a discussion like this where we have teams of presenting the pros and teams presenting the cons of building with nature. So I'm actually very interested to see what both parties have to say, and I'm really eager to get started. Thank you, Baba.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Amrit, and also Pak Is for um, welcoming speech, and also welcoming speech also from Amrit from Delta side. Okay, so goes to the next agenda is presentation and discussion. So we can start from the first group. So we already split to all participants in the four group. The first group and the second group will be to presentation on pro about building with nature projects, and then the group 3 and 4 will be for cons ones, cons side. And then so we'll start from the first group for giving presentation on pro with building with nature projects. Please for a group 1 for delivering presentations.
Thank you, Mr. Bambang. I will start to share my screen for the first discussion. First, the presentation from the group 1. Okay, thank you for this opportunity. For the first group, or the group 1, this is Bapak Ferry Dermawan and Ibu Usi Andawayanti, Bapak Heri Supriyanto, Bapak Sebrian Rahma, and also Bapak Amar Sajali. So first, I'll start. Okay, what is this? The building with nature. First, about the conservation. This is the protection of the species, their habitats and ecosystem. And then the end is the restoration. How about the restoration is renewing and restoring the great damage or destroy the ecosystem and habitat to stable and healthy state. Then how they compare with the building with nature is making use of the natural processes and ecosystem to fulfill social function. Like example, flood reduction, flood defense, and disaster risk management mitigation. And this is building with nature in the river basin. We can manage water runoff, and then we manage the sediment balance into the river basin. So from the rain, and then we could see from the upper to the downstream area. This is the coastal safety measures. The 3 activity we can do this for the coastal safety measure. For the first is Hard engineering, this is contain the breakwater, drains, seawalls, earthen boot, leaf, tube, or sandbags and polder. And then the second one, we can use the coastal safety measurement. This is the natural system restoration related to the sediment balance, hydrological system, and ecosystem. And then the last about the non-structural processes. This is how we can avoid the risk zone, but building codes, evacuation, early warning, and road allocation. And then we see the how can we use the mangrove restoration about the mangrove status. First, we can see the health and degrade, and then we see the impact indicator and physical factor, and how to the restoration action to this mangrove status. And then this is the cycle of the building with nature. However, the building with nature approach requires the system understanding of the study location. And then we see how the interaction on the physical, ecological, and the social function about this. Yeah. This is the cycle of the building with nature design step. And then we see here the management of the sandy coastline. This is the trapping sand, and then adding sand and stabilizing sand in the coastal lines. And this is the coastal engineering and coastal zone management. With the 3 steps, this is coastal engineering. Is in the coastal engineering, the construction at or near the coast, as well as the development of the coast itself. And then the second is building with nature, making use the natural process and ecosystem to fulfill the function. And the 3, integrated coastal zone management. The process for coastal management through an integrated approach regarding all aspects of the coastal zone to achieve the sustainability. This is the comparison between the coastal engineering, building with nature, also the integrated coastal zone management. And then we can see here the soft solution, hybrid, and hard solution. This is how we can manage the more space, more flexible, cost effective, and less space, like flexible and less investment to this coastal area. This is the measurement of the building with nature. First, the permeable dams. This is on the muddy coast to reduce impact of wave and increase the trapping of sediment for natural mangrove recovery. This is contain the cost medium, maintenance medium, carbon is good, and pro work with the natural process. And then the sand nourishment is to mitigate the erosion of the sandy coast in area with high economic turnover, the touristic value. This is the content management need. Cost is high, maintenance is high, and this is a work with the natural process, a very little side effect to the additional service. And then the next is zoning. Space is limiting to limit the fluvial flooding or to create space for development of the intertidal habitat. This is content the cost is very low, medium, and the maintenance is no maintenance, and pro is allow natural restoration of the coastline, keep people safer. And the last is this planting is only if lack of seeding is limited. Cost is very low, medium, maintenance low, medium, and pro work with natural process, no side effect, and additional service. This is maybe you need to divide the content of the building with nature. Okay. And then this is the example of how the intertidal mudflat and mangrove forest to create, mangrove forest to create the habitat for numerous species. Mangrove roots help to attenuate wave and at the same time provide the hard substrate that support the muddy coastal environment. This system play a major role in fish nursery and species diversity, protect the juvenile fish from the predator, thus enable the development and increase their food supply. Then next, this is the sustain muddy coast and mangrove. It requires holistic planning for all the system relates, people and nature. A successful delivery from the conservation will drive the multiple community benefit. Example like flood protection, like I say before, storm protection, innovative aquaculture practice, and also ecotourism include in this boating, like boating, birding, fishing, natural watching, which in the end lead to the new capital for economic development. Thank you very much for your kind attention, and thank you. Give back to the moderator, Mr. Bambang. Thank you very much. This is the end of the presentation from group 1.
Okay, thank you very much, Brahma, for your presentation, your group presentation regarding to building in nature and also pro with building in nature projects. So next I will invite the second group, still on pro building in nature projects. Group 2, time is yours. Bu Linda, time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Bambang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everybody. I will present the paper, the PowerPoint of Group 2. This is the member of Group 2 is Pak Bambang, Pak Dian Sisingge, Pak Eris Wartanto, Sumiati, and me, Linda Prastiorini. In this case, we took the Building with Nature project, an example in the project of Sand Motor. And the Sand Motor is a pilot project for an innovative approach to coastal protection and coastline maintenance that involves using nature to provide protection from the sea and to create a temporary area for nature and leisure activity. This is the background, how we use the Sand Motor project. And the first is long history of coastal straightening. And the second, need for beach replenishment. And the third is innovative pilot project using natural process, the sea, and an alley building with nature. And the fourth is currents, wave, and wind erode, and redistribute the sand.
Okay, Bu Linda, I can continue your presentations. Okay, as a second group.
Yes.
Bu Linda, is it okay if I continue your presentations?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, sorry, I have to replace Bu Linda because Bu Linda had to do some things.
Yes. Maybe Pak Bambang can continue.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I will continue. Okay. Okay. Okay, this is presentation of the second group, still on pro with a building energy project. So in here, we take a project on sand motors, and then this is project in Netherlands actually. The sand motor is pilot projects in Netherlands for innovative approach to coastal protection and also coastline maintenance. But this one using nature approach. So the background of the sand motor project is a long history of coastal strengthening. And then because of a problem in coastal lines need for beach replacement. And then there is idea to make kind of innovative pilot project by using natural process. And then consider also on wave, wind erode, and also redistribute sand. So why Netherlands choose this kind of projects because of certain consideration. The first is about beach closer to the deeper waters, and also there is a function. I mean, after this project Venice as the place for recreational area, and also by considering using the natural process, so less impact of environmental can be guided by these projects. And then, yeah, actually before these projects, I mean, sand motor projects, there is a negative experience with beach replacement. And then, and also previously there is approach by using sandbar, but in the certain period, the sandbar is disappears. And also another consideration like influence on other sport located nearby. And then after this project, I mean sandbar projects, so this is the results in the coastal of Netherlands. This is end of our group presentation. Thank you very much. Okay, next I will continue from the third group. So third group, time is yours for cons in building nature projects. Pak Jatvan or Budian will deliver your group presentation.
Yeah, Pak Jatvan.
Things I will be represent the group 3 for cons building with nature, Pak Bambang. Allow me to share my screen. Yes, everyone can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Today I will represent from group 3. Let me introduce myself. I am Jatvan. I represent from group 3, which for 6 members. And because I become cons for building with nature and things I must see for the another perspective, because building with nature combined with these 3 aspects: social, environment, and economic. But in building with nature, somehow these 2 things like environment and social become more larger rather than economic purpose, and maybe some of part the community will not accept with full of building with nature concept, because we have a lot of problem inside, like how it can be sustainable and how can be social get beneficial with also the economic rather than environment recovery and restoration. And I see from, and I get some question about building with nature is how building with nature balance that I referred to previous slide. This is how we get this is sustainable. I think the sustainable of building with nature is takes a lot of time. So that is I think we will make sure the sustainable is difficult to apply in the field. And the second is that the structure of building with nature concept can fulfill the sustainable concept? I think we still curious with this concept because in the field, as I know, the building with nature project is already end this 2020. So to make sure the structure and the concept is still sustainable for the future, I think is need more effort and a lot of work to make sure that that concept. And the third point is how we monitoring for sustainable for building with nature structure because it use permeable structure. So I think the strength and uh, for the long time period, I think is need to be concerned. And this is my third slide is talk about the shifting economic and climate change challenge for the future of building with nature. So we will fight with shifting economy and climate adaptation. So how will the structure and how will the concept can be uh, evolve to for the next future? This is also challenging. I think the building with nature maybe somehow will be stopped gradually, I think. And how we address and how we building with nature solve this climate challenging like shifting from uh, wet season to dry season in 180-degree uh, changing. It is also I think building with nature concept it's need to more addressing with this one, but I think it cannot be solved in the short period. This is also what we must see building with nature because natural process sometimes also make like this happen like when dry season the more heat is more appear and it make forest fire become more larger. And if we use a structure with natural structure, sometimes our structure will make the forest fire become more larger. And I think it's also need to be concerned too for this problem. I see also the some of a problem regarding building with nature because some of the part building nature also said uh, mangrove also can be side by side with the aquaculture productivity. But in my point of view, in Indonesia maybe if we use a mangrove and fish farm side by side, I think it will not make beneficial at our economic increasing rate right now because in coastal zone it more have pollutant in coast line because most of the industrial area is take part in coastal zone or in estuary. So I think mangrove and fish farm cannot be side by side. And the other, I take an example. Semarang still sinking. Even we use building with nature, I think we need more approach to make the land subsidence become not very massive over that area. This is what I see in 2018 that Semarang still sinking and what I see last night is from the paper or journal, Semarang still sinking, even though not quite high like previously. So some variable also need to be concerned too is the geology and morphological sediment because one of some of the catchment also trap the sediment in the upper zone. So even we plan to catch the sediment in estuary, sometimes sediment uh, cannot be catch in a story because it's already trapped in the upper zone. I think building with nature need to be holistic solution for this problem. Uh, I also see the reference that uh, different types of uh, building with nature concept that in for very variable uh, ecosystem. But the challenging is how that organized with existing aquaculture because when in my opinion aquaculture need to be organized precisely because mangrove and aquaculture cannot side by side. One of them is distracting one each other. That is my point of view. And then this is what I get from the last paper, but that we still uh, trying to defense of the land subsidence that uh, cannot, and in my opinion, it cannot be solved in with building with nature in the short period. And as I know, and the KKP plan for better fisheries industry for the future is using offshore fish farm like this one. So we use a large fish farm in the offshore, and for the next future, I think that fish farm can become place for vacation and tourism site. That's I think need to be concerned for building with nature also. I think that is my point of view for building with nature cons. Thank you for your kind attention. I return back to Pak Bambang. Pak Bambang, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Jatvan, for your group presentations. And then I will continue for the last group, still on cons with building energy projects. Please, Kufor, time is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Pak Bambang. I will have presentation on behalf of my group 4. I just want to add some point of view about the cons of building with nature here, like already mentioned a lot by Mr. Jatvan. I just want to add just a little, as this is just a few slides of my groups. Here we discuss about the green structure compared to the green infrastructure compared to the gray infrastructure. Here is the example of gray infrastructure example, for like water and wastewater treatment plants, and then potable water pipelines and flood mitigation berms, which is we consider that this cannot be replaced by green infrastructure. So in our opinion, that the challenges of building with nature is measuring return of investment and risk of management and the effectiveness in urban areas, as this is type of problems that usually occur, as already mentioned, like Mr. Jatvan said also. And then the second is the current regulation or the absence of regulation of at the country, provincial and local level also present obstacles, as many green infrastructure projects don't fit traditional wastewater treatment construction model. So they may not be standards or building urban codes to govern how the project should be implemented. And then the third is, as a largely untested concept, the green infrastructure also face scientific uncertainty and then also socio-political uncertainty or the acceptance of the government. For example, the government, for example, or the people, for example, and the decision making at uncertainty. So because the building with nature needs a long time to prove how that it will get better in some way. So, however, in our opinion, this is the cons of building with nature. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bambang.
Okay, thank you very much, Befi, for your group presentation. Okay, I will continue for discussions. Okay, as yeah, group one and also group two is already make presentation on pro with building with nature projects, and then both group is already give example of building with nature project such as sand motor and also planting mangrove, and giving information about pro about building with nature project. Now I will invite from group 3 and also group 4 giving response to the first and the second group in connection with pro with building with nature projects. Or perhaps Amrit, do you have any question to group 1 or and group 2
Thank you,
regarding
Baba.
pro project, pro with building with nature projects?
And well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for all the teams. The presentations were very well and very interesting. I really like the different to hear the different pros, but I really also liked about hearing the different cons. And then I must say I recognized many of the challenges described by the group. But I do have a question for the group of the pros. There was, how do you think that building with nature concept will do with respect to sea level rise or maybe other types of climate change issues? And especially if you compare that to gray infrastructure. So if we take the example of maybe, if we stay along the coast and take the example of comparing mangroves as a means for preventing floods and comparing them to dikes, what do you think are the pros of using a building with nature approach when comparing it to a gray solution? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Amrit, for your response in presentation from group 1 and also group 2. Is there any response from the group 1 and also group 2? Pak Sebi, perhaps, do you want to give your opinions, I mean, in connection with Amrit question previously?
Yes, for sure, but maybe I need to prepare something because my son is by my side. Okay. Okay, now I'm online. Well, yes, it's interesting, Amrit, regarding your question, how do the building with nature infrastructures cope with the sea level rise or another climate change impacts? Well, I think it is still debatable and still in a working research, by the way, in my opinion, because, well, when you are looking at the hard structures such as dike, well, it will give you an instant protection with the people because you suddenly have this high difference between a high mid sea level to some specified, let's say, safety design. However, we should also consider about with this relative sea level rise because you will have this then some subsidence in the hinterlands and also the rising of sea level in the offshore or in the sea part. But when we are looking at the example of the short marsh, for instance, or mangrove, they have this sediment capture functions that it will also increasing over time as long as they still have this, let's say, a strong community of mangrove or salt marsh, so that they can dynamically follow the rise of the sea level, for instance. However, it is also still varied, I think, for other places. So it can be like site specific and also species specific, for instance. For maybe in the Netherlands, if you are in the close to the Wadden Sea, for instance, that they can, some research shows that they can copy the sea level rise because, well, if the sea level rising 2 millimeters, then they can provide 2 and plus something millimeters. So they can still keep rising together. However, you can still need to consider with the people in the hinterlands because you also have to provide some kind of protection for them because submerged they didn't provide you flood protection, but well they can give you some another ecosystem services such as more land to survive. So that the hybrid engineering approach is also doable, I think. So you still have this area for vegetation to grow, but on the other hand, you can also provide some kind of hard structure to provide such kind of protections. But however, in Indonesia, we still need to explore another options because maybe not all of the area is capable or possible to have this some kind of vegetation protections, such as in the cliff coast or rocky coast that they are more or less flexible. So I think zoning is also a good option. So mitigation can be really better than just to keep people stay there. So they have we have to, let's say, to look in the longer terms, let's say 25 or 30 years or maybe 40 years, how can we see the development of the populations and also how this climate change will affect their populations. So then maybe a zoning and mitigation can be also good options. Like what can we see in Japan, how they can survive with the tsunami. Maybe that's all. Maybe another opinion to that.
Okay, is there any additional opinion from the first and the second group regarding to Amrit questions? Okay, perhaps Adian, do you have any additional opinions? Adian or perhaps Pak Ferry?
I also have maybe another question, but if Bapa wants to answer the first question, please go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Yes, I still invite for the group 3 and for giving response to the first and the second group presentations. Pak Doni, perhaps do you have any response in connection with the first and the second group presentations in pro with building with nature projects? Yeah, mostly in the second, the first and the second group talking about, I mean, the beneficial of building with nature. So, I mean, agree with a natural approach.
Did you ask me?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Pak Doni, do you have any different opinion in connection with a pro with building with nature projects? Because the first and the second group is talking about pro with building with nature project. Perhaps Pak Doni has a different opinions.
In the term of the frame of constraint.
Yeah, I mean, the first and the second group is already give explanation about the pro with building with nature project. Perhaps from the presentation, Pak Doni make a note that not really agree with this one because consider about this one or some things.
Oh, okay. Maybe I didn't focus in one of method of building with nature, but I will give my opinion in a general perspective about what the group 1 and group 2 presented previously. I think that the problem of using structure of building with nature is arise when the structure is complete, I think, especially related to the maintenance. Yeah. to make sure or to ensure the sustainability of the PWN or building with nature structure, especially when we talk about the transfer of transfer of responsibility, which was previously dominated by the engineers who designed the building with nature structure, and after they finish their work, they must hand over to the people around the environment of the structure of building with nature. And I think the problem is we still sometimes we know that the main problem after finishing the project, the maintenance, the monitor, or the maintaining process is sometimes become a big problem in our cultural society, particularly in Indonesia, I think. And another possible constraint is the low adaptability, considering the impact of the result of this structure. Sometimes if we use like vegetation media for the building with nature structure, we can know the result after a long period of time. So very often that before the performance of the structure is its maximum, the BWN, BWN structure is damaged. And I also interested with the comment from the Pak Jatvan, that the structure of Pak Jatvan or Bu F, and also focus on the that building with nature structure. We still have no design of this standard, so it's tend to have no control regarding the effectiveness of design. As far as I know, that we still have no design of standard for the structure, so we have a problem with the controlling the effectiveness of the structure. And also, I think the structure is not very safe against the extreme events, considering that the BWN structure is not planned based on like maximum event base, as we use in the planning of the water resources construction using the written period. So it means that based on that consideration that the structure is not planned based on the maximum event base. So I think that it's very vulnerable. It's not very safe against extreme events. And what else? Yeah. Okay, I still is sementara itu. Thanks, Pak Bambang.
Okay, thank you, Pak Doni. So Pak Doni giving opinion or response regarding to design. There is no standard for. There is a certain standard. There is no certain standard for building with nature structures. So Pak Doni little bit worried about design in connection with extreme events, because if we design for using gray structures like a breakwater with gray structure, we already make design based on the written period. For example, with written period of 50 years or something. So, okay, is there any wait Pak Jatvan, because Pak Jatvan from the contra ones, or maybe Pak Jatvan want to give additional opinion from Pak Doni. So before the group 1 and group 2 giving response to Pak Doni opinion.
Yes, maybe I will give some additional comment for Pak Doni, because as I discussed with Josh and from Witteman boss before, and I forgot his name, from Witteman boss, he said the structure might be for building with nature is suitable for unique or specific place, but it cannot be applied in another place. As based on that discussion, I try to make and imitate the structure from Vitamin Boss with permeable structure in Probolinggo, with the characteristic of the coastal like flat, and because Demak have a structure of and morphological coastline like a bowl, so the wave maybe have a different way to reach the structure. And when I put the structure in my location in Probolinggo, it already finished in 6 days. So when I discussed with Pak Jos, he say some of part of the structure when we use clay structure cannot be we cannot make sure it will be the structure will be hold the wave forever. I think that's the point from what we discussed from Pak Josh from Bitcoin Pros Indonesia. I think. Thank you, Pak Bambang, for this opportunity.
Okay, Pak Jotvan, thank you for your opinion. So based on your discussion with Pak Josh, yeah, sorry, I little bit missed with your opinion. Is there any kind of certain guidelines to make design for building with nature?
Pardon me?
Is there any kind of certain design, certain guideline for design with building with nature infrastructures?
He said is using like we try to using like from in Indonesia we call branch or ranting from the tree, branch from tree, and the part of mangrove we used to permeable structure, but sometimes we face another problem in the field, like tree tip it that branch, and some of part structure can be eaten by some mollusca and some fish maybe, because it's a lot of nutrient over there. So we facing a lot of problem where we try to imitate the building with nature concept in Probolinggo, and I think some of if we want to make it general in building with nature concept, I think it need to I think we need to have more than one location to can state that building with nature is work or not. That is my point of view for building with nature concept.
Okay, thank you, Pak Jotvan. Amrit, okay, if I'm not mistaken, during TOT on Bali, we have a kind of discussion in connection with climate change and then about the guideline how to make design for building with nature. You still remember our discussion before? And
Yes.
then, do you have any opinion regarding to that one? I mean, climate change and also design building with nature. Perhaps you already have a kind of guideline from, I mean, Delta has perhaps already proposed kind of guideline to, I mean, building with nature design.
Thank you. That's a good question, actually, specifically when you place it within the context of climate change. Well, first of all, it's very difficult to have guidelines for all the different types of climate change issues, from sea level rise to increasing storm events, to droughts, etc. And then for all the different types of nature-based solutions, from not just mangroves, but also maybe reforestation in upstream catchment area, to maybe greening roofs in urban area. But what I do know, for example, is that there has been a guideline made by Witteveen and Bos as part of the Building with Nature Consortium, together with Wetlands International and Deltares, on the construction of these semi-permeable structures. Maybe you have already seen it. I can maybe share it with you in the chat, a link. People might be interested in this. But in general, if we just use the mangroves again as an example, and these there are very little internationally used standards when it comes to using mangroves for flood defense. So all these cons that were named before, like there's a challenge of knowing what is going to be the return of the investment. There's a challenge of maintenance. There's a challenge of design standards. These are actually very real challenges that we're all dealing with, not just in Indonesia, but around the world. And actually the Building with Nature community is trying to formulate and create these regulation and design standards for all the different types of building with nature solutions, not just mangroves. So we're actually putting in a lot of efforts into creating these design standards. But it's not easy. For example, Deltares is focusing a lot of its research efforts on creating these type of standards. But in relationship to the thing that I do want to add about when you look at building with nature in relationship to climate change, I really liked what Sebrian said. If I'm pronouncing your name correctly, I'm sorry. Is that building with nature, unlike gray solutions, to a limited degree, of course, but building with nature solutions has the capacity to grow with or to adjust to different types of climate change scenarios. Whereas a gray solution, such as a dike, once it has been constructed, it is not dynamic. By nature, it is not dynamic. It'll stay constant. And I think this is something that is often overlooked when using gray solutions and comparing it to potential for green solutions. One of the pros that I didn't really see and that I would like to share with you now is that if you build a dike for a specific location, and you take into account maybe 10, 20, 50, 100 years of climate change, the longer you look into the future, the more uncertain that future is going to get. So how are you going to then design your gray solution? Are you going to overcompensate and build a very large dike just so that you are certain that no matter what the future will bring, you can deal with it? The risk with that is that you construct a dike that is too big and too expensive. Whereas with the building with nature, you can constantly, if you're monitoring your building with nature approach, you can every 5 years reevaluate, see how sea level rise is changing, and then it's a very little investment for just restoring mangrove habitat compared to building a huge dike. So maybe after 10 years, you see that sea level rise was more than you can expect it, and you can always construct, in the end, a dike if you need to. But the other way around is more difficult. If you construct a dike and it ends up being that sea level change is not as much as you expected, you over-designed your dike, well, then you invested too much in the construction of your dike. Of course, I just wanted to add that to the discussion.
Okay, thank you very much, Amrit. is there any additional opinion from the group 1 and group 2 regarding from Pak Doni and also Pak Jatvan, Reswan, and also Amrit before? Pak Dian or Pak Ferry, do you have any response regarding to group 3 and group 4 Pak Doni opinion before?
I have a question, maybe, Opa.
Okay, please.
To also to maybe to what the Padoni said, but maybe someone else can answer the question. So you said that in Indonesia, within the context of Indonesia, maintenance is an issue. Is this also for gray solutions or just for building with nature solutions?
I think both of them, Amrit, we have a problem with maintenance. That's the, I don't know, maybe that's become one of bad character of our people. We easy to build this, but it's very lazy to maintain the structure.
Okay, and so then you are worried that the same thing would happen with building with nature solution.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, I understand. Yeah, but I think that is an issue in many countries, not just in Indonesia. Maintenance is always a difficult issue, and do you think it's related to finance? Because I mean, most of these projects can get finance for construction, but not many projects can get finance for maintenance.
Yes, perhaps finance become the one of factor that that give influence the law of maintenance low character to maintain the structure after post construction. In my perspective, I don't know if other college to see this situation.
So, Pak Doni, from your bottom of your heart, actually, do you agree with building with nature concept apply for coastal protection or river protection in Indonesia?
Yes, now we are speaking in ideal situation, ideal condition that we totally agree, completely agree that our mindset focus on protection using the hard structure must be shifted to the how to use nature for protection. But as we know, I think that everyone agree with that. But using a structure, we know that it's very expensive, and the result is good but very expensive. And however, on the contrary, if we use nature for the protection of our area, it is very cheap and very good in the context of ecological conservation. However, that I mentioned to you before that we have a problem with the post construction using the building with nature. But if we have a good consideration and we realize the importance to maintain, to make sure the sustainability of the green structure or nature, building with nature, I think everyone agree that now we must change our paradigm of the protection using the hard structure into the building with nature structure. Okay, Pak Bambang.
Okay. Thanks, Pak Doni. Once again, is there any additional perspective from other group? I mean, okay, perhaps once again, I still invite maybe group 1 and group 2 will give response to the group 3 and group 4, please.
Maybe I have additional
Yeah,
comment
please. Yeah, please.
for Pak Doni. I think the main thing it will become more common in Indonesia, Amrit, because when we talk about project in our mind will be there are some finance regarding the maintenance of the structure like that. So it will be trigger the community to become I will be aware if there are some financial support for that, but it will be less maintenance for community itself, because if they don't no more beneficial for them directly. So if we talk about to save them, sometimes they must in the worst condition, so they can aware and keep the structure more sustainable. But if we talk for sustainable in a normal condition, I mean, there are no more dangers like land subsidence or defend from high wave or high even tidal wave or something like that. I think the community are will be more ignorant rather than more aware for structure, even it is for themselves. I think common for Pak Doni. Thank you, Pak Bambang.
Okay, thanks, Pak Jatvan. Is there?
Can I add something?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I myself definitely agree with building with nature, but however, we find that there is some problem, like especially in Indonesia. In Indonesia, sometimes we kind of late of handling problems. So sometimes we wait until it's getting severe, and then we try to handle things. So sometimes it's difficult for us to handle things when it gets severe and get worse and worse, rather than when it's just have like slight damage or something. So in the case of our people, I think because it's already severe, we feel that building with nature wants to offer sometimes give long result, while probably the people or the government become confused, or they don't know what to decide, whether they use green infrastructure or green infrastructure, because the green infrastructure will give long-term results, something like that. But if we already understand the problems when it's not getting severe, probably it's a lot easier for us to maintain the problems. I think that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Bevi. Amrit, could I ask something for you? Based on your experience, I mean, building with nature in Indonesia during your stay in Indonesia, or perhaps you stay in Mexico, or perhaps in Netherlands, is there any example that building with nature, failed? For example, starting by planting mangrove, and then there is extreme events, all mangrove plant is disappear.
Yes, actually, many times. So I have to answer your question a bit correctly. Usually when mangroves planting fail, it's because people did not take the proper system conditions into account. That's usually why very often mangrove restoration does not work. And then, like you say, then not even an extreme event, maybe just a normal monsoon season is just enough to destroy all the planted mangroves. Doesn't even need to be extreme. And the reason being is they didn't look into why the mangroves were gone. They just planted the mangroves, probably the wrong species, probably at the wrong location. And then it fails, for sure it fails. But that's not what you're asking. You're asking me, did maybe building with nature solution fail even when taking the proper system conditions into account? And I think that I also wanted to react to this. What Doni actually said is that in the building with nature solutions are not capable of dealing with extreme events, and that's true. They have a limited capacity to deal with extreme events. So I think it's very important to ask the question, what is it you want to achieve with your building with nature solution? And I don't think you should want to be able to protect Jakarta against a tsunami with mangroves. Just to give an extreme example, that should not be your goal. If that's what you're doing, then building with nature will fail completely. So it's really context specific. A location like Jakarta deserves a great infrastructure and deserves the investment of having a big, very safe dike, for example. But when you go to the context of a location like the MAC, the cost benefits, your investment is going to change. I guess it is possible to build a very large dike around Semarang and the MAC, but then you have to ask yourself, you know, given the fact that governments have limited budgets, is that the best solution? So yeah, just to answer to summarize, Papang Mang, yes, mangroves can fail, especially if you don't take the system into account. Also, they should not. And do they fail during extreme events? Yes, they do fail during extreme events, although there is some literature showing that during the tsunami in the north of Sumatra, I think it was in 2013, I'm not quite sure, that areas where there was mangroves and areas where there was vegetation were damaged less. I mean, there was still a lot of damage, but they were damaged less. But yeah, I would never recommend to use mangroves to protect against very extreme events. That's my final answer. Thank you, Papa.
Okay, thank you very much, Amrit. You mentioned about that building with nature is not completely, I mean, for like a coastal protection, especially for extreme event. Perhaps there is kind of combination between or hybrid structure for that kind of extreme event. I mean,
exactly.
Perhaps there is perhaps there is a dike, but in front of dike that is kind of mangrove. So mangrove will reducing the heat of wave and also with energy and also with currents, and the rest will be against by grid structure. Okay, perhaps there is a response from group 1 and group 2 to contra opinion for building with nature.
Bambang, can I have?
Yep.
But I'm sorry, maybe this is the basic question, maybe, because I'm new in this topic. Actually, I don't know much about the building with nature. So my question is, what is the building with nature standard? For, as I know, as you explained before, that building with nature is related with the green infrastructure. So it's mean if we build something with massive concrete or a, a high concrete, this is not building with nature. Or if we otherwise, if we use an environmentally friendly material only, this is building with nature. Or how about if we construct with hybrid construction? This is building with nature or not? This is my question. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you.
Terima kasih, Bapak. That's a very logical question to ask, and a good question as well. And actually a question that is still, I must say, within the building with nature community, not completely resolved. It's a bit philosophical, actually, because indeed, when is something building with nature? My personal opinion is that it's a spectrum. It's not black or white. It's not a dichotomy. It's not like one or the other. You just have a spectrum, and you need to adjust to the context of the situation, the design of your solution. In some locations, you will have the space to restore huge fields of mangroves. And then so your building with nature will be just large mangrove fields. In some locations, like Papa Bangpang says, you will have a hybrid solution. And then at other locations, you will have to use sand nourishments. And this is also a bit less building with nature, but still using the natural elements. And then, and then it gets more gray and gray and gray until you have just a dike. I would say it's just the fact that you're considering, let's say, maybe building a green dike or a dike with vegetation on top is already a bit of a building with nature solution. But I would say less than the mangroves. So there's no real wrong or right. It's just how much does the local context allow you to consider a fully green solution? But your goal should never be to just push for building with nature. The goal should be to understand your system, both in terms of physics, natural, but also socially and economically. And based on that analysis, and it doesn't have to be very in-depth, it could just be talking with some local stakeholders as well. But based on that analysis, then you can think about the design of your building with nature solution. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very.
Is there any valid question, Pak Rianto? If you have any additional questions, still welcome for you.
No, thank you, thank you. I must more read about much reference to learn about building with nature. Thank you. Thank you, Amrit.
Amrit, perhaps do you have any response for contra group? I mean, cons with building with nature project, especially for group 3 and 4, because previously you already gave response the presentation from the group 1 and group 2 for with building with nature projects.
Yes. Well, I really liked I must say the way the con group phrased many of the cons was phrasing it as a challenge. I mean, I would like to say then maybe maybe for example, I would like to ask the con group, can you maybe think of what like the potential economic benefits might be of a building with nature solution? Because you say that there's a challenge for it to be sustainable. But then, I was just wondering if you compare like a gray solution with a building with nature solution, and if you look at what type of benefits they have, Could you maybe is there a difference between the two, or would you always choose for a gray solution, or are there situations when there might be, from an economic perspective, so in terms of cost, so how much does it cost? How much would a gray solution cost versus how much would a building with nature solution cost? But then eventually also, what are the benefits? So what are the benefits of a gray solutions, and what are the benefits of a green solution? I would like to ask the con group, maybe Pajat Fan, or someone else, maybe to give an answer or an idea about that.
Okay, thank you, Amrit. I think Bu Yuni is already on cam. I think is already prepared for answer about your response before.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Pak Omang. Actually support me because I am TOT alumni, right? So okay, I would like to try. So in our group opinion, maybe we are not only focused on the economy, but we are also focused on the people who live over there. An example, if the people live in the area who prone the flood zoning, maybe, so it is very dangerous for them. So that's why we choose the gray structure is better than the green structure. We are thinking about that. So the second one, of course, we are also thinking about the green structure or BWN. But as you said also, BWN is not for the look like a big event, but look like for the operation and maintenance for the ecosystem. But in our country, especially as we said also, we have a difficulty for having operation and maintenance. So we just act if we have an example disaster, etc. So that's why, in our opinion, the first thing is how to save the people living. This is our opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bu Yuni. Perhaps there is an additional opinion from group 3 and 4 regarding the response. Economic side in connection with green and also gray structures.
Maybe I
Pak Jatuan, please.
The comment from Bu Yuni for this is because I'm constrained group and Amrit. In our opinion, not only financial side that maybe I cannot say it not suitable, but maybe more challenging in Indonesia, because if we use gray structure, the structure itself is more have more strength, I think. But if we use like permeable structure and the material from the nature, I think the challenging is not only maintenance the structure itself, but also it will be invite the other species to coexist with the material, like tree tip. It also like the mangrove tree branch like that, and it will be make damaging the structure itself. And well, it happened more often than before the planting the structure. I think the structure will be not hold more longer than the gray structure. I think that our opinion about the structure. I mean, rather than the financial point of view. Thank you, Pak Bambang.
Okay, thank you, Pak Jatvan. Amrit, is there any follow-up question to group 3 and 4? Or perhaps respond from a previous opinion from Bu Yuni and also Pak Jatvan? Or perhaps if there is there is other participant to give your opinions regarding to Amrit response, still welcome to all of you, especially for group 3 and also group 4.
I do have some questions, but I would like to give the floor to some other people and the opportunity for other people to ask a question. So please.
Something?
Oh yeah, Mas Sebi, okay, please.
It's only on. Okay. So maybe as an addition to the cons group, well, I think the main concern of the group 3 and 4 is probably about the infrastructure. That is, if you, let's say, compare the building with nature approach with the traditional one, is like the grace infrastructure is stronger or more reliable than the green one. However, that's not only the approach. Let's say we know that the zoning approach is also part of the building with nature, I think, in my opinion. And it is obvious and clear. So if you remember that back in our childhood, it's when you watch the Doraemon movie that they are playing in the riverbank. So it is supposed to be the floodplain instead of for the baseball field. And during the high flood, then these area will be flooded or inundated, and they are still be safe to play there when it is already low. So that can be also an approach. Or if you know that we also have this long-term, that low impact drainage or sustainable urban drainage system or something like that, that they also promote the use of more sustainable way how to drainage our water. So that can also be an option. So maybe in our perspective right now, well, in Deltares or Delft in general, no, the Netherlands in general, that they are cope with the sea level rise and coastal protection. So in our mind, the solutions always be in the coastal areas or in the vicinity. But in the perspective of Indonesian case, there is a lot of room of improvement, not only in the coastal area, but also in the urban settings or maybe in the river basin or maybe in the river part. So yeah, I think there will be a lot of more local context that can be we can explore it, and then there might be a lot of windows of opportunity to apply this building with nature concept that is more accountable, because I know that the concern of the people in the ministry or more technical part is about how can we let's say, I don't know the correct term is accountable or more financial things, that it should be able to be quantified in money and in rupiahs in Indonesia. So I remember that maybe in the TOT that we are we had this like a big worksheet that we have this metrics to compare one by one, and how can we quantify it with the amount of money, so that we have additional benefits of building with nature, such as recreational functions and also like the social functions that can be also converted to money. So the ecosystem services is not only in how they can give us like the safety measures, but also recreational measures, and also the mental factors. For instance, with this craziness of COVID-19, that people are urged to stay at home as much as possible, then you can have space to just, let's say, reconcile or just to enjoy the nature. That can also be the big benefits of that. So maybe that is my making sense.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Sebri. Okay, Pak Sebri also building with nature is not only about structure. I mean, like planting mangrove, and then could be, for example, 50% replacing the function of dike to reducing the level, the height of wave, and also reducing the current of wave. But also can be zoning, by moving to certain area, several area. Is there any response from the group 3 and 4?
I forgot one thing as well. With regards to the climate change, that if you also take into account with the carbon, then the mangrove has this carbon sequestration effect, that they store more carbon than in the terrestrial one. So we should also consider that into account, or maybe we can also find the aquatic ecosystem that can also store the carbon in the below ground. So yeah, if we follow, I don't know, is there any like Kyoto Convention or something that the country that emit more pollution, they should pay to the country that then sequestered the carbon. Maybe we can also use that or take that into account to justify our building with nature approach, and we can get the funding from that country. Probably, I don't know.
Okay, thanks, Pak Febri, Mas Febri, for your additional opinions. And then once again, please group 3 and 4 giving response. But yeah, building with nature is not only about structures. I mean, replacing dike by planting mangrove or others, but also there is other options. Looks like Bu Yuni wants to give her opinion. I see from display. I mean, I see from my screen that Bu Yuni would like to giving her opinion. Bu Yuni, please.
Thank you, Bang. Okay. Yes, I did agree with you, Pak Zebri, that PWN not only for the structure, but now our group discussion, we talk about the really great infrastructure. An example that we explained before, that pipeline for the water or etc. We cannot change into the BWN. This is our example. But also I will not avoid your comment about that BWN is not only for instruction. I did agree with you. That's my comment.
Or Pak Doni, perhaps, do you have any different opinion? Because usually Pak Doni always give opinion out of the box. So I invite Pak Doni for giving his opinion.
You're muted, Pak Doni.
Pak Doni?
Okay, perhaps I will make a response to the Amrit question about the economic aspects. Is it okay, Pak Bambang? Okay.
Yeah, okay, Pak Doni.
Okay,
and then after you give response to Amrit's question, you can continue your opinion from Pak Sebri.
Yes, regarding the economic aspect of implementing the BWN structure, yes, I think that we must look at it from the point of view of the main objective or the purpose of implementing the BWN structure, as Amrit explained to us previously, you explained to us. And yes, of course, in an economic analysis, we must review into aspects, right? And namely costs and benefits, both in tangible benefits or intangible benefits. And in that context, perhaps the benefit cost ratio of the BWN structure is more profitable than the hard structure, I think. However, for example, in cases where we must protect areas that have a high economic value, so I think that we must use a hard structure rather than BWN structure. So
for sure, in Hayek,
yes.
like you say, like in Jakarta, the
Yes.
cost-benefit analysis would show you that a hard structure is more financially attractive also. That's very true, very true.
Yes. And about the question of Pak Sebri is very, because I'm watching Thomas Cup in my so I didn't focus on the question of Pak Sebri, but according to this, the answer from Bu Yuni, yes, previous answer from Bu Yuni, that I think Pak Sepri focused on the perspective when it's not only a green structure, but we can use a structure, a hash structure. Yes, as I explained before, and also I make highlight in the Amrit, yes, explanation for that. Decision for implementing BWN structure is depend on the situation or the condition of the area that we want to protect. Yes, I think that's become the most important thing that we must know first about the main objective, the main purpose for protecting the area. If the area is very important area, for example, like maybe a temple, historical temple. So I think that we prefer to use the structure than the PWN structures, as I explained to you. But if we know that we have an area with like daily or monthly pitch erosion, statistically there is no extreme event in that area. So I think BWN structure becomes very, very good to be implemented in that area. But I'm interested with the hybrid system. I think the hybrid system become the alternative, the important alternative that we can combine between the hash structure and also the BWN structure in the situation in the area where we have two kind of characteristic. We have what I would say like an extreme event, or yes, extreme event. So maybe we not only focus on the hash structure, but it is good to try also combine between the hash structure and mangrove, for example. But the hash structure will protect the mangrove from the extreme event, so the mangrove will survive and we can get the result as we want. Enough. Period.
Okay, thank you, Pak Doni. Okay, Amrit. Yeah, because our time is so limited, and then this is already very close to a closing time. Do you want to say something about today workshop?
Thank you, Pak Papang. Honestly, I think many of the issues in terms of pros and cons have been named that I have also experienced myself, coming from finding finances for maintenance, the lack of protocols and the lack of guidelines for design, that's an issue. How to monitor that there are no building codes, still a lot of uncertainty about this effectiveness of building with nature solutions. I do see these are all indeed challenges, but I like that you phrase it as challenges instead of just the cons, because I mean, a challenge can be overcome. And I think we now, all of us here are part of a community, scientific community, engineering community that can help overcome these type of challenges. We at Deltares are dealing with the exact same questions you are. And I think if you talk to other engineers at other firms like Witteveen and Bos or Royal Haskoning, they will agree with what you're saying, and they will say that these indeed are very important issues. But I would like you to every now and then to just jump outside of your comfort zone as an engineer, and think about indeed the potential social benefits, environmental benefits, and economic benefits of applying a building with nature solution. But again, always remain critical. I am never saying to implement the building with nature solution just because. Always be critical of the context of the system, both in terms of physics, biological, but social and economical. And if the situation allows, then please consider. Yeah, and just keep an open mind. And I really enjoyed this conversation, I must say. So thank you very much to everyone for sharing your thoughts, for being so open. And yeah, looking forward to the next workshops as well. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much, Amrit. Yeah, I think it's now time for closing today workshop. And then thank you very much for Amrit, because very early morning in Mexico had to join our workshop today. And also thank you very much for all participants today for your active participation, giving of your opinion about pro and cons building with nature's project. It's not only in Indonesia.